experts, professionals, and at the same time, will also help us align with the concept of or the curriculum of Computer Security Plus. So that's the two things we are going to be achieving hands in hand. And if you look at if you are familiar with the Computer Security Plus, I think the first domain is talking about threats, vulnerability, and mitigation of attacks. So we're also going to start in that note we are looking at threat, vulnerability, and firewall. So today's class or this class will be more of introduction, so introduction to the hands-on skills. So I'm going to try to lay a foundation of the kind of skills that we're going to be learning. When I make mention of skills, basically what we are saying is that tools that we use, knowing how to use cybersecurity tools. Because if you're talking about skills and we're talking about practical, it means we are using something to achieve something. And basically what I'm saying is that we are using some tools to solve some problem. We are using tools to detect threats. And if you remember in last class, we emphasized about the fundamentals. We can recall the fundamentals of cybersecurity, 3 things that we are doing in every cybersecurity operation. We talk about 3 things.
Confidentiality, integrity, and
yes. So we're talking about the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So everything, like I said, everything we are doing in cybersecurity is all about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We are protecting the confidentiality of data. We are protecting its integrity. We are making sure that data or availability to either data, assets, people, network, whatever it is, and because we're in a cyber world, we're in a very digital world, almost everything is digital. Even human beings are digital, human beings are digitally accessible. So when you are protecting the CIA, you are protecting human beings, people, properties, processes, you are people protecting assets, data, and everything. So
we lost you, sir. Sir, we lost you.
with certifications, so that whenever you are done here and you want to go ahead with any certification, you can always have that edge. You can always have a hold of whatever you are learning. I hope I'm still audible. Can you still hear me?
We lost you for a while, but we can hear you now.
Okay, because I noticed that the network went off briefly. So what I'm saying is this course might not be straight, curriculum. What I'm doing is I'm just picking topics. We're going to be dealing with practical topics that are relevant to certification exam and are also relevant to job search. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to get skills that will help us get a job, or do cybersecurity work. So they're going to be picking those topics one after the other. May not follow any particular order, but at the end of the day, we'll see that we have covered everything. So today we are looking at threats, vulnerabilities, and firewalls. So looking at threats, we want to deal. Threats basically is anything that is that can possibly, cause a compromise within your network. So threat is anything that is like a potential danger to your network or to your security. So in this cybersecurity case, I would say threat is anything that is, about to break the confidentiality, the integrity, or make your systems not available. So anything that is threatening the confidentiality of your data, anything that is threatening your privacy, anything that is a potential danger to or to cause to your privacy, or something that can cause your privacy to be, exposed, to break confidentiality of your data, is a threat. Anything that is going to make your data susceptible to compromise, altering of data without permission, that is breaking the integrity of your data, is a threat. Anything that can possibly make your system not to be available. For example, if you are using your computer and suddenly you cannot log in, your password is suddenly no working, or you put on your computer and you're seeing a message that your drive has been encrypted. If you want to have access to it, maybe that is, we all know what ransom. That's an example of a ransomware. Something that can make your system not to be available again is a threat. So confidentiality, integrity, and the availability, anything that is going to make those three things to be broken is a threat. Now, in the network security, there are some common threats. And in cybersecurity, there are some common threats that you'll be coming across. You remember in the last class I talked about you paying attention to news, reading journals, going online, subscribe to cybersecurity blogs on LinkedIn and so on, so that you can see some of the things that are happening. I was reading a report I think yesterday or day before yesterday, a report of Radware, one of the companies, cybersecurity company. They put together a report of what was happening in 2024. And one of the attacks that is very common, some of the threats or the hacks that happened a lot that was rated high was DDoS. DOS, if you look at the screen, you can see DOS or DDoS. The full meaning of DOS is denial of service. DDoS means distributed denial of service. So, and if you're going to understand it, let me start from man in the middle. So these are common threats. What I'm saying, why I'm making reference to that report is because these threats are the reality. These are the things that you face out there. They are not stories. These are the things that is happening every day. Hacks that they are sending out. And I bet you that some of them are happening in Nigeria. The only problem we have in Nigeria is because most organizations, when they are being attacked, they don't report it. They try to bury it. Banks are being attacked daily. They will bury it. They will tell you one story. They will, instead of accepting or notifying people, which is actually against the standard practice, because one of the key things about incident response, when an incident happens, that you're supposed to notify victims, to notify people who have been involved. So, but that is not usually done in this side of the world. So, but these are hacks that is happening every day. So now we're talking about common threats. The first one I have here is man in the middle. Man in the middle, just like the name sounds, it means somebody standing in the middle of two people. So there's a communication from the source and the destination, and then in between the source, let me use the source and the target, or the origin and the destination. In between, a man is standing in the middle, interrupting the communication. Basically, that is what is man in the middle. So, and how does that work? It means that now I'm talking to you. You guys are not here. We are not in the same place. I'm trying to pass across a message. It is possible that somebody can enter in between what I say and what you hear, and then alter what I say. For example, in this age of AI that we have deep fakes and all those stuff, somebody can possibly get in between my communication and yours and distort what I say and change my voice, add some of the things to it, or put image, and then you'll be hearing something. So that is man in the middle. So it's a very common threat. It happens a lot, in network security. So, and those are one of the things that you need to understand how to, detect when you're carrying out your cybersecurity work. For example, if you're a SOC analyst, if you are setting up a SIM system and you are monitoring, you can, depending on the kind of SIM tool you are using, you can see activities within your network that suggest that there's somebody that is altering communication. For example, now, if your IP address is trying to communicate with an IP address and you look at the logs of the communication, maybe you do a capture of the network, and you see that some IP address, some what they call it, some MAC address in there. Some MAC address are being altered. You are seeing handshake between some domains or between some end user devices. You can be suspicious that certain people are present within this network that are not supposed to be. So that is how man in the middle works. Man in the middle is basically intercepting. So these are part of the things that, or one of the things that we're going to be fishing out within us using in our practicals or in the hands-on skills we are going to be doing. Then DNS spoofing. DNS spoofing is talking about altering the DNS. So we all know that every website that you visit, www.gtb.com, is going to be that gtb.com. Computer will change it to IP address. It will change it to some numbers, which will not be the system will understand. So DNS is basically talking about domain name service. So domain names is the www.gtb.com. So the service, the server that does the translation of this www to IP address is the domain server. It resolves the IP address into, it resolves the domain names into IP address that computers can understand. So DNS spoofing is talking about a hacker or a threat whereby they fake the DNS service. So instead of you getting the actual DNS of www.gtb.com that you are supposed to use, somebody spoofs it and you are getting a wrong DNS. Your DNS may server, I think it may be resolving to a different IP address. Instead of it getting when you type gtb.com, instead of it going to gtb.com, the original IP address of gtb.com, it may be misleading you, redirecting it to a different, IP address. So it's spoofing your DNS, is altering what's your domain name that is being changed. So it's redirecting you to a different place. So also we have DOS and DDoS attack. So like I mentioned earlier, DOS is distribution of service. Then, denial of service. DDoS is distributed denial of service. So when you talk about denial of service, from where it sounds, denial of service, which CIA, can you guys tell me which part of the CIA do you think is being affected? Denial of service.
Availability.
Correct. Availability. It means when you are denying someone service, it means you are making the service unavailable to the person. You are denying someone access. So, and the way it works is that if you have a website now and you cannot access the website, that's basically denial of service. And that is, in fact, is one of the most common attacks that happened in 2024. It means a lot of times some website that you are trying to access and it's not available, it could have been a denial of service. Especially in this our country, whereby a lot of time we are trying to visit even some banks. There are some times that you are just wondering, why is it not connecting? Why am I not getting them? It may be because it's a denial of service. Some people have been attacking it. And how does this denial of service work? So basically, people generate fake traffic. You can imagine I have a website that I'm supposed to be serving 100 people, or 100 people are supposed to, have access. The capacity of my website can handle 100 people visiting the website at the same time. That is the capacity. Maybe because it's just a website for my company and we don't have more than maybe, let's say we have 50 staff in my company, and I don't expect all my staffs to be visiting the website at the same time. And because of that, and I even increase that. Okay, let's assume each member of the or each staff of the organization, let's assume that they all come with their frame to work, and all the 50 of them and their friends are accessing the site at the same time. That makes it 100. I've made the capacity 100. But somebody now wants to carry out a denial of service attack on the website. What we will now do basically is going to get like 200 or 300 persons to be visiting the website at the same time. So what do you think will happen when 300 people are trying to check a website that's only meant for 100 persons at the same time? what's going to happen? Yeah, exactly. So there is an overload. There's too much traffic. Everything will, the server will hang. The system will break down. It will not be able to handle it. Then nobody will be able to access the site again. So that is denial of service. So when it's a distributed denial of service, is a way is the way they conduct, is a strategy or the technique, the way in which that denial of service is conducted. It means that the attack is not coming from one source. So it means that, for instance, they use hackers have created a software, a malware, a bot that is spread across different computers. So they call it the command and control. So the hacker is staying in one place and it sends software, or the hacker sends virus or malicious, let me call it malicious program, malwares, to maybe 1,000 computers. So on those computers, the malware that the hacker generates is residing on those computers. Then from his own computer, he can communicate with those malware, with those viruses elsewhere. So, and when that happens, it automatically sends signals. Sorry, please give me a second. Hello, sorry, hi, see here.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sorry for the interruption. So I'm talking about distributed denial of service. So in this case, an hacker stays in one place and is controlling like 500 or 1,000 or several other computers from his own system. And what is he doing is making those other computers that is connected to be sending, to be trying to access a particular network or a particular website or a particular target. So is distributing the denial of service from, is causing it to happen. It's not one person that is sending this in, because there can be, for example, why they call it distributed is that there could be the one that is not distributed. From my system, for example, now I can create a software that is generating traffic and is sending it to a particular site. So it will mean that the traffic, all the traffic is coming from me. I can be sending, like, trying to access a website like 500 times in 1 second just for me. And also I can now, when it's distributed, it means that I'm using different computers, not just me. Maybe I drop the virus on Charles on computer, I drop the virus on Derry's computer, and I'm controlling the two computers from here. So as I'm sending my own 200 traffic per second, 200 clicks per second, I'm making Charles' computer to be sending 200. I'm making their computer to be sending 200. So I'm coordinating. So the denial service attack is not coming from one end. So it's called distributed denial service. So that is DDoS. So, and it's a very common threat. Very common threat. It happens a lot. DNS spoofing too happens a lot. Especially in the age of all these public Wi-Fi, people using public Wi-Fi, there are a lot of things that happens in those spaces. Man in the mood too happens, we are connecting. It happens a lot in public Wi-Fi too. But so basically, these are common threats, network security threats that we are looking at. And if you are looking at this impact of is the steal data, service disruption, or unauthorized access. Man in the middle is an example of an unauthorized access, because what he's doing is he's stealing, is standing in between, and is talking to people that they're not supposed to talk to, and also stealing of data. Man in the middle is doing that. Then service disruption and data theft. So if you are going to look at the network traffic, so for a network threat going on, for you to know what's going on, to know whether this you have an idea of this man in the middle, whether it's man in the middle is happening, when whether data DNS spoofing is going on. You want to also capture denial of service. You want to see high traffic. You need to analyze your network. So, and the tool that we use for analyzing network, not the only tool, the most common tool, that the tool that is well, mostly recognized, I think is the most popular tool for network traffic in terms of efficiency and wide use, is Wireshark. So we're going to also download Wireshark. So it's part of the tools we are going to download and we're going to learn how to use. So what does this Wireshark do? So it used to capture the packet. So if you launch a Wireshark, for instance, now on your laptop now, you can pick a particular port, or a particular interface on your laptop and tell the Wireshark to monitor all the going in and coming out, all the traffic going in and coming out. For example, you can pick your Wi-Fi interface, because mostly of the time we are connected through Wi-Fi these days. So you can also pick maybe your USB port. You can pick your LAN port if you have LAN port. You can pick any port on your device and tell Wireshark to monitor, to capture the traffic going on in and out of the system too. So when you capture this traffic, then the Wireshark allows you to be able to filter the traffic according to protocols. I know we have not talked about protocols, but it's part of the thing we are going to learn as a foundation for us to also, because if you don't understand protocols, it may be difficult for you to understand some other aspect of what we are going to be teaching. So when we say protocol, to quickly explain, when you go to a website, you see what we call HTTP. I'm sure you will have noticed HTTP, and then there's HTTPS. The HTTPS is the secured one. The HTTP is basically hypertext transfer protocol. So that's a particular kind of protocol. When we're talking about protocols are basically like the language, the language rules that of communication. So when two devices are trying to communicate, they need to establish some standard of communication in order for them to understand each other. For example, now, as I'm speaking English now, it's because we have agreed that we're going to have this class in English. So I need to speak English according to the English language grammar rules or vocabularies, at least to the best of my knowledge, so that you can understand what I'm saying. Because if I'm not speaking it properly, you may misunderstand me. So protocols are the things that devices usually use for communication. They guide the communication. They're like the rules guiding communication of devices. So, and then depending on the kind of communication you want to have. So for example, HTTP and HTTPS, they are for web communication. So when devices want to communicate and they want to share websites, communication, internet communication, they want to be sharing things like, HTML, you want to share web pages with each other. It's HTTP protocol that you use. So if you look at your traffic and you see you filter by HTTP, you say your Wireshark, you set the traffic in your Wireshark and you say, okay, Wireshark, I want to see all the HTTP communication. That means if it filters it and shows you all that is going on, then you will know that, okay, all this communication are websites that you are opening on your laptop. So for every website, like I'm chatting with you on WhatsApp, I'm using Google, I'm visiting Yahoo Mail, you will see it. It will filter it out and it will show you all those communications that are using HTTP. Then we can filter according to another protocol. TCP is another common communication. So every service on your device that is using TCP to communicate, you can see it. Then you can see the DNS too. Remember what I said, DNS. DNS is that server that resolves your domain name. So for every communication for every website that you are opening, there is a service in your laptop that is trying to resolve those domain names, and it's using its protocol. So the communication between your device and the DNS server will be following that protocol, DNS. So if you filter your traffic with Wireshark and you look for all DNS communication, you will see all the DNS servers. So if somebody is spoofing your DNS or is doing something with your DNS service, you will see it in the Wireshark that, okay, I'm not communicating with this DNS server. How come I'm seeing it inside my traffic? Then you know that something is going on. The same thing too, if you filter by HTTP and you open your own browser, you see that all the websites you are looking at, the HTTP filter, when you filter the traffic, what you are seeing in the Wireshark is different from what you are actually doing on your system. Then you can know that something is going on behind the scenes. So that's how you analyze network with Wireshark. And then when you basically you are looking for suspicious patterns, when you are seeing unusual outbound connections. So if you are sending message out and you are browsing, you on your browser, you open only Google. But in the Wireshark, you see that your computer is communicating with Yahoo, is communicating with Telegram. You can be shocked, you can be surprised that no, there's something suspicious happening here, and then you need to check it. Maybe somebody's already hacking into your system, or your device has some virus or some malware that is carrying out something behind the scenes. So that's how you analyze traffic. So this is another hands-on skill, or this is another practical aspect of what we are going to be doing. So packet analysis scenario. So for every traffic, usually traffic, when I'm saying traffic, I'm talking about the connection between what is going on between your device and the internet. So your device is sending communication. So it's the communication I'm calling traffic. That is what is going on in between your device and the server or the wherever it's connected to. So those are the packets. So those communications, they are referred to as packets, and then you analyze the packets. Like I mentioned earlier, Wireshark analyze those traffics in packets. So a scenario here is when a user suddenly complains that the internet speed is slow. The user just connects. I'm browsing, I'm just opening google.com, and the browser is already slow. The system just is unusually slow. Then what do? You can launch the Wireshark, capture the traffic, a packet, and analyze the packet of traffic. Then when you analyze the traffic logs, you determine if there's an attack. You can see that, okay, in this traffic that you're analyzing, you are seeing more than just visiting google.com. You are seeing some other websites come up in the traffic. Then you know that, oh, there's a problem here. And then, so when you look at those traffic, there are certain things that will suggest that there's a malicious activity going on. So from what I've explained to you, I want somebody to talk about what do you think, what kind of activity can you see, in your traffic, in your network traffic, that can suggest that, or what kind of situation can happen that you see in your traffic that you suggest to you that there's something funny going on? Can anybody just give me an idea from what you've been saying so far? Hello? I'm just trying to get us.
Okay, sir. I think when you analyze through with the Wireshark and check your network provider or your Wi-Fi and see that the website that you visited, or checking through the domain name service, and you are seeing that the website that you are seeing is different from the one that you logged in, that you visited, is different, then you know that there's something malicious going on. I don't know if I'm right.
Yeah, going on. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Let me ask Derek now. What do you think you can notice in your analysis? If you are analyzing your traffic, what do you think you can notice that you can make you suspect that a denial of service is going on? Hello, Derek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now. So I'm saying, what do you think? What can be a pointer to denial of service, DOS or DDoS attack going on? What can you see that can give you an idea of that? I can hear you again. Hello.
I only know, say denial of services, maybe trying when someone is trying to, okay, say for instance now, yeah,
Mm,
you want to deny somebody service, you, you obviously make the site he or she is trying to get to unavailable, right?
mm,
So
mm,
either you are making the email address or you have access to the server that the domain name server, and you have probably done some uh, adjustments to the configuration. So basically, that's like an example. Another example would be um, without email stuff. Um, Alright, this is what I can put on now.
Okay, so yeah, one of the things that I expected, when I was explaining denial of service, one of the most common way denial of service is done is by making plenty devices, a high number of devices, to be trying to visit one particular site at the same time. Do you understand? So if you have a website and that single website is being visited by hundreds of other websites at the same time, do you understand? So it means there's definitely going to be a load, as in too much traffic going to one place. This is an example of, because that's basically what is happening. Why will one single IP address be having 100 people trying to visit it at the same time? When it's not like maybe is a lottery website and you just open lottery and you tell people to be signing in. That's not the case. This is just a simple office where you're doing websites that people are, you're not expecting more than maybe 2 or 3 people to be visiting it at the same time. Then suddenly you are seeing 50, 100, 200 people trying to go. So if you look at your packet analysis and you see a high number of, IP address trying to visit a particular destination or a particular target IP at the same time, it can be suspicious. Another thing you can take note of is if you look at it and you see that the size of the packets, is quite heavy. Because I told you packets is just talking about the data in transit, data that's going on between two devices. If you are saying that the size of the traffic packet is high, is unusual large chunk of devices. For example, I know if you visited some websites where you are submitting a form, if you experienced this before, let me know. Where they will tell you should not upload more than so amount of size of, maybe you want to upload your passport or you want to upload a form or a document. They will tell you the maximum size of the document. Have you noticed that?
Yes, sir, so many times.
So one of the things they are doing, they are limiting the use of bandwidth, because if everybody is uploading 2 gig, 2 gig at the same time, you know what will happen now? It means that they are consuming data bandwidth. There will be heavy demand on that, and then it will slow down the network. But if everybody is uploading just 5 KB, 5 KB, you can imagine how many 5 KB they will have to upload for it to make up 100 MB. So it means more people can use that site conveniently. So if you look at if you're analyzing the traffic and you are seeing one IP alone is sending a data of the size of maybe 500 MB for a site that is not a video streaming site, it's not a site that is uploading graphics design or something unusual. A site that is just supposed to be uploading maybe a form or letters, and then you are seeing 500 MB. You are seeing 5, 6 people trying to upload 500 MB at the same time. Definitely there's something funny about it. So that's a suggestion of a malicious activity. That's how you analyze traffic. That's how you know that something fishy is going on. I hope you are following. Okay, so this other thing I'm saying, we are still going to go into it practically. So but this class is just to lay a foundation, for us. So we're going to be picking some of these skills one on one, and then understanding it. Then conducting vulnerability scan. So when you talk about vulnerability is really talking about weakness. It means that if you say something is vulnerable, it means that that thing has some weakness that somebody can take advantage of or can be exploited. If you're speaking in technical terms, it means there's a weakness that can be exploited. And this is always the case with most organizations or most hello? Hello? Look like I went off.
Hello, I can hear you.
I think my internet disconnected me for a while. So Derek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so now I'm talking about vulnerability. So when we talk about weaknesses, vulnerability is simply weaknesses. So the idea of your work as a cybersecurity person is to identify this weakness before somebody that will identify it and take advantage of it will do so. So that is what we are all talking about in vulnerability scan. So as a cybersecurity person, this is one of the things you're doing a lot. And even there are different tools that will help you to achieve this. There are different tools that can use to scan a system for vulnerability. Even before scanning, there are basic things that you as an individual can do. You can log into a system and check certain things. For example, you can check configuration. There are different kind of vulnerability. It could be a configuration that is not properly done. Maybe when you are supposed to block all ports, you're supposed to block some ports or close them, you let them open. That's a configuration issue, weakness. Or maybe you are using a software that is outdated. It's a vulnerability. It means that software is not safe. That software can easily misbehave. There are a lot of vulnerabilities. You can check basically if somebody is using a system that is not updated to your Windows. Maybe you are using a Windows and the Windows is the last update of that window is maybe 6 months ago. That's a vulnerability. Considering the amount of new attacks hacks that have been happening between every that period, that's a vulnerability. So when you are doing vulnerability scan, basically you are using a tool that is automating the process by automatically scanning through the device. So when you scan through the device automatically, you can pick out the tool will tell you the weaknesses that is happening in the device. And one very common tool for doing this is Nessus. Nessus, I think, is among all these three that I mentioned, the Nessus, OpenVS, and NICTO. I think Nessus is most common, but OpenVS too is a very common tool, and NICTO is a command line tool. NICTO is something you can we will use in Kali in the Linux to do it. We'll also use Nessus to, later on. But basically, these tools, what they will do is they will scan your system and they will tell you that, oh, we found out that the software you have installed or you are using in your system has been replaced by the manufacturer and you are using the old version. It can tell you that certain ports are left open. It can tell you that you have not conducted an update on your system in a while. They can tell you so many things, by scanning. And that is what vulnerability scan is all about. So part of the skills or things you're going to be learning is how to use these tools to scan the system, and then you identify the weakness before the attackers do so. Now, a practical activity we're supposed to do is supposed to install the Nexus, and configure it. You're going to perform a scan on the network, but okay, in the installation, okay, I will also begin with direction on some other installations we are going to be doing too. Like now we have Wireshark to install, we have Nexus to install. We are also going to install another operating system on our VM, which is Metasploitable. So Metasploitable is a virtual machine that will be like another tool that we can use. They already made it to have some weaknesses, so we are going to be scanning it to conduct weaknesses, see what we can find in that virtual machine. I hope, Derek, have you been able to install your Kali on the VM Fusion?
No, I've been having that.
You said?
It will cancel and continue. Cancel and continue. Downloading it.
Oh, we need the downloading. Maybe you need a strong network.
Yeah.
That would be an issue. You need to get it. Maybe if you can find time to go somewhere where you can have access, and even just for the purpose of download, you download all the tools. If you have the opportunity, let me know so that I can quickly send you the links to all the things you need to download, so that you download it once and then can come to the house to install it. But we need to do that. What of Charles? You have your Kali installed on your VM?
I have them on. I uninstalled the workstation before and downloaded it back, but it still has the Kali and everything inside. So I just left it.
But you have installed, is installed and is functional?
Yes, it's working.
Okay, fine. So it's easy for you to just to be installing some other tools you're going to install. Okay, so another thing about running scan that we're going to still do, you're going to be able to interpret vulnerability severity level. So most of the time, there's a categorization for vulnerabilities that people find or that these tools find. It's either low, is high, and critical. So sometimes some tools may have medium and stuff, but basically, if it's a low vulnerability, it might be a vulnerability that you can ignore. You understand? For example, now it may be like a tool. You might find that you have some software installed, and that particular software, maybe you just you did not do some settings in that software properly, but that software does not have any access to the internet or does not have any web interface, so they may consider it low, that maybe because they don't expect it's not open to hack, so it may be low. But there are some maybe high, maybe for example you left some very critical ports open, and these ports are common ports that people utilize a lot, so it may be high. And some may be critical. Maybe you have not updated some sensitive security files, something that is being considered as a hackable software. And so basically these vulnerabilities are categorized into high, low, medium, critical, depending on the tool you are using. And we're going to look at all of these one by one when we are doing the test, when we are running a Nexus scan. Then we're talking about vulnerability assessment reports here. So whenever you find some vulnerabilities, you need to document them. So documentation is a very key part of cybersecurity, because whatever you do in cybersecurity, if you cannot make people understand you, it's literally going to come out not to. So if you are working as a cybersecurity analyst in an organization, and you find out that there are weaknesses in the system, you must be able to put it together in a document that the people, the management, the people that are making decisions in the organization can understand. and then the report must be able to communicate the severity of that weakness that you have found. So, because if you are telling them that something is critical and it's sounding to them, the way you are presenting it is not sounding to them as something that is critical, because they are looking at, okay, what impact does this thing have even on them? How does it impact them? If your report cannot communicate that, it's going to be a challenge. Then report will also show how you prioritize fixing them. Okay, what are the things that you need to fix immediately? What are the things that you can fix later? Then also reporting also involves providing mitigation strategies. So how do you stop certain things from happening? These are all to be considered. Then I'm going to another topic that I need to these are more like giving us some basic foundation to what we have all been saying. So we're saying malware. So when we're talking about malware, what is a malware? I want to assume that we understand or are familiar with what a malware is. Malware is from two words, basically malicious and software. So if a software is malicious, it means it's a malware. Now, malicious software, they are usually designed to disrupt, damage, or gain unauthorized access to system. Let me reward that based on what we have gone through earlier on. A malicious software is basically designed to break the confidentiality, break integrity, and make unavailable something, data or assets that are crucial for the organization. So if a malicious software is found in your system confidentiality, privacy will be exposed. The integrity of your data is going to be compromised. You're not going to be sure of what your data is saying. And also availability, there's a likelihood that the malicious software can render some files no longer available. For example, a ransomware will completely lock your system, demanding, and sometimes a ransomware may just encrypt some files. You may even be able to log into your system, but some files, some critical files can just be locked up, and you try to open them, and then the ransomware will keep popping up message that do this and that before you can access your file. So these are malicious software. So we have ransomware, we have Trojans. Like I mentioned, ransomware is basically those ones that holds you ransom when they encrypt your files, when they encrypt your files or your devices or your net or system, and then they are demanding for a ransom for them to release it. Then we have Trojans. Trojans basically files that they are viruses or malicious softwares that comes inside a software that is not malicious. For example, now you may download a Microsoft Word document, which is a genuine file that you need. But inside that Microsoft Word, there's another hidden virus inside it. So those are Trojans. They hide inside other files. Then we have worms. The idea about worms are the ones that can easily replicate themselves. These are files that once they come into your system, they will spread on their own. They can replicate themselves as they move around. Then we have rootkits. Rootkits are usually the ones that affect your system files. They go to the root of your device so that before you can get them out, you may need to just reinstall your system completely. They are not targeting just files. They are targeting the rootkit. They are targeting binary files that make your system functional. So they are in the root system. So they usually refer to them as rootkits. So these are things that you are looking out for as a cybersecurity. And then when you're analyzing a malware attack, so when a malware attack happens, you are looking at the malwares and you are checking it which kind of malware is this. So if you have an hack happens in your system, and then maybe you pick a file and suspect. From your Wireshark, also let me go back a bit. From your Wireshark, you can see the files that are being shared. So in your Wireshark, for instance, when you filter, you check and you see that there's some HTTP or your TCP, and you see the communication going on between your device and the server or the internet, and you see that some files are being shared, you can pick those files and then analyze it and see the kind of content. So when you analyze such files, you can determine whether they are safe or they are not safe. So the practical thing is that we're going to be downloading, some samples of malware, and then we are going to be checking them. So we have to use what they call a sandbox. A sandbox environment is a safe environment. It's an environment whereby you can carry out different tests without affecting your system. And this is very important because as a cybersecurity person, if you say, okay, you want to check malware, and you went online and download the malware may just affect, may just hit and and disrupt your software, your computer or your device. So in order for you to do it safely, you need to set up what we call a sandbox within yourself, so that if you are testing a malware, you are seeing how it works, it will not harm your system. So an example of sandbox, environment is any .run. We have a Flare virtual machine. These are sandbox environment where you can conduct, malware analysis easily. Then what are you looking for when you're analyzing the malware? You are looking at behavior patterns. You are looking at the kind of files, the kind of changes it's making to your registry, the kind of networks or connection. So if you have a file, you notice that this file, anytime you launch this file, it automatically connects to a particular IP address. That's a flag. You can need to check it. For example, anytime you launch a file, maybe the file automatically, you see that it's trying to open Telegram, or it's trying to open some funny website. You know that there's something wrong, and you can only see these things in your checking the traffic, or sometimes registry changes. Anytime you launch a file, you click on the file, you just notice some certain changes in your device. That definitely this file is, there are some behavior patterns, or for example, Trojan, or let me say the worms. Maybe a file, once you launch a file, you just discover that all the other files in that folder, they are copied and pasted elsewhere. So those are funny patterns. Those are how to analyze malware. Those are need to identify behavior patterns and see what is going on. And so, like I mentioned, what type of malware is detected? So if you are conducting a malware analysis and you discover that the malware, is just replicating itself. Like I said, you are doing this in a sandbox, in a safe environment. It's just because the files are replicating itself, that shows you that it's a worm, or you discover that the file just encrypts every other file and you cannot open it again. That's a form of ransomware, the encryption. It's sure that those kind of file will demand for something for you to open. So then you also need to know how to mitigate this. These are the things that we're going to be looking at. Now, also, I want to talk about web security. So web security is basically talking about the security of websites. Today, everybody is online. Almost every company, if you have a business or a company and you have not opened a website, people may not take you very serious. So the exposure is increasing because everybody is finding a way to be digitally visible, and they do this through the web. So therefore, websites are being attacked, and there are different kind of attacks that happens on the website. So we have what we call this SQL injection, which SQL is basically talking about structured query language, which is a language that is used for database. So if you are running a website that involves the use of database, maybe you are selling something and people need to log into your website and make a query and that will, they need to query something and search on your website. They need to impute some data or impute some words, and then you click submit. It will search your server for the information and bring it out to you. That is a database, basically. So you use SQL. SQL is a query language that you run that helps you to fetch data from your server and populate it on the web page. So SQL injection is basically where you inject fake SQL queries. You come up with malicious queries. The intention of this malicious query is to access data that they are not supposed to access. For example, now let's say you go to let's say you go to Jumia, for instance, and you know that your search, if you type on Jumia, that Jumia should search for television cable. Jumia will, this query will bring all list of televisions they have. No, but if you want to check what other things do they have does Jumia have in their database, you can come up with some kind of query, and if you can test an SQL injection to see if it will bring something. So if you run a query and the query begins to reveal other things that are behind it, maybe it begins to tell them the address of the supplier or the account number of the supplier, which is in the supplier of the particular television set that you are buying on Jumia. Such information are not supposed to be exposed on the website. But if you run a query and then the website begin to display such, so people use SQL injection to carry out such malicious activities, whereby they run a query and the query brings out information that is not supposed to bring out from the database. That is an injection. So we inject the SQL query into the database and then it gives you data that you're not supposed to access to. So if you understand me, what part of the CIA is that affecting? Can you hear me?
Sorry, come again.
I say I just explained SQL injection. And SQL injection. Yes, I say SQL.
Integrity.
You say?
Integrity.
Integrity. Okay, so integrity, and also another one is also affected too. Is
Integrity and confidentiality.
Exactly, integrity and confidentiality, because basically you are forcing the database to give you information that you are not supposed to access. So you are bringing out private information that are not meant for the public or that are not meant for you. That's it. And also, I agree in integrity, because the SQL can inject codes, SQL query that may alter the content of the database. And if that is happening, then the integrity of the database has been corrupted. So we have also the cross-site scripting. So cross-site scripting, which is XSS zone, is another form of attack. It has some form of injection too. So there, SQL is targeting database, the data behind. But in terms of SQL, so is a code, that is injected, in form of JavaScript. They use all these JavaScript programming. They are simple code. There are people code as hackers. You don't need to be a JavaScript guru for you to find the code. In fact, online now you can see samples of malicious codes, that you can inject on the website, and then it affects the experience of users on that site. Okay, so what it does is that the attacker, somebody that is attacking your system, when it discovers that your website is vulnerable to cross-site scripting, it will find this malicious code and will create a code, and they will inject the code on your website or run the code on the page, so that when another user or when the user visits the website, this code is automatically executed. Then it will expose that user's information or the session that the user session, it will expose it to the attacker. So how do they use this most of the time? They use it a lot in people like all those bank people, you are a user now, you're trying to do internet, what do you call it? Internet banking, for example. So if a website of the internet of the bank is vulnerable to exercise, an hacker can run a code on a website. Then if another user comes there and tries to visit that website, the details of the person interacting, of the innocent or of the victim, the details of his interaction with that website can easily be captured by the attacker, because the attacker has embedded a code into the website. It's called cross-site scripting. They use this one they use it to steal sessions, to steal information. That is why when you are browsing, they usually tell you don't just use any website. You go to a cyber cafe or you go to a public place where you are sharing a public computer and you want to log in. You want to log in to your website or to a bank website or a sensitive website on such public system. You might be exposing yourself, to cross-site scripting is always twisting mouth, or XSS, cross-site scripting. That is what is that. So when you hear cross-site scripting, you are talking about somebody hacking a website. And when you mean hacking a website, it's hacking to steal information of people who visit that website.
Derek sound is not muted.
Is it?
Derek sound is not muted.
Oh, okay. Derek,
Yeah.
I think your mic is picking and it's not muted. You can mute your mic when you're not talking. Say that.
Okay.
It did not interfere much. Okay, so that is cross-site scripting. Please be taking note of the difference. SQL injection involves injecting of codes, SQL codes, to affect the database. Cross-site scripting is basically injecting the code on the website, and it affects other users of the website. So, but the cross-site request forgery, this type of attack tricks a user into carrying out actions that you don't intend to act on a web application, whereby that they are authenticated. So, for example, they can trick a user to submit a request, then which automatically enables somebody else, the attacker in this case, to have access. For example, let me use this banking example. You may want to do a bank transfer. So the attacker will trick you into transferring money from your own bank account to the attacker's account. This sounds like something we talked about last week. Last class. If you remember when we were talking about that cryptocurrency, that Bybit, whereby somebody is carrying out a transfer and he's thinking he's sending money to someone else. Meanwhile, he's sending money to the hacker. So they can also, this one too also can, they can trick you to change your password. You think your password, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, when you are trying to log into a site and you are telling you that your password is not correct. Has anybody experienced that? Your password is correct and you are trying to visit a site, maybe you are trying to log into a place and it's telling you your password is not correct. Has anybody here experienced it? Hello?
Not really, but the times
Okay.
I've experienced it, I think most of them, they are secured websites, so they will just tell you to change the password. Maybe somebody else tried to log into login my information there. They will not tell me to change the password to protect me from somebody gaining access to it. Maybe people are compromising the password.
Okay. Yeah. It's sometimes, a lot of times it can be genuine. Maybe you are making a mistake, or maybe the website wants you, a particular website wants you to change your password. But this part of when it's an attack, what is happening is that somebody has created a code that is generating, for example, fake pop-ups. It's common. If you visit those some funny sites, it's those days when it was HTTP, when there are a lot of HTTP sites, when this website has not secure. If you've been using sites, if you've been viewing the internet for a long time, there are times where you'll be seeing a lot of pop-ups. For example, if you want to go and download, for those people who want to download free movies a lot, or visit porn sites, or those gambling betting sites, you'll be seeing a lot of pop-ups. Do you know? And sometimes something will just pop up and tell you that your antivirus had expired. Have you seen it before? Something will just pop up and say your antivirus has expired.
Yes, I used to see that one a lot.
That you should upgrade, or you download this free. Those are examples of cross-site requests for you. So if you mistakenly go and follow some of those links and you click on the button they give you to click, you are automatically sending a message. You are clicking it up, you are approving somebody to be able to access your data. So those are examples of cross-site request forgery. Because the intention is to trick you to take an action that will authorize the attacker to be able to do something. And then the website might just be you granting them access to your password, or granting them access to a transaction. So you need to, those are examples, and we're also going to demonstrate it, in a practical class, and also see how the common ways of avoiding this, mitigating this kind of risk. Then next thing. So so far, do you have any question? If I'm moving to continue to the files. Hello, do you have any questions? So I'm going to assume.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The way you wrote this one, like the firewalls definition and others, but when you were talking about those attacks, those malware, the network attack, and the website attack, you didn't. I know you explained them, but you didn't write them down on that.
Okay. Okay, like definition purpose, like this. Yeah. Okay, so yes, I intentionally, because I want to rush through it. I want to be moving fast through it.
Okay, sir.
You understand? But I don't also want to. In fact, this one, like I mentioned earlier on, the class, I didn't structure it in a particular way. I'm just jumping from things I feel is important, something that you'll be coming across later.
Okay, my plan was to make note after when getting the video. I'll use it to make notes.
Exactly. So that will help a lot, because if I don't want to do too much definition defining, because so that I want more to be more practical, to be more explanatory, and then so be such a way that you can also easily find it useful.
Okay. So
this is the last aspect of this of the class. That's why I took the liberty of putting this one definition. But I'm still going to browse through it. The videos are there for you to watch. Will be there for you to watch again, and then if you still have questions, you can always. That's why we have your WhatsApp. You can ask questions. You can reach me via WhatsApp. Yes. But basically, firewalls. I think I'm talking about firewalls. There's a video I want us to watch. About 15 minutes video. I will have said, I don't know if how the internet is from your hand.
You also said the other day that for us to know the pathway for us to follow to that, you're going to send us a link to a video where you talked about the different domains that we can just choose from, like to know the pathway.
Yes, I actually forgot. Yeah, sorry. Sorry about that. I've actually forgot. I will do that today after the class. I will make sure I send you the link.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I will send it on the WhatsApp group and tag you so that you can tag both of you so that you can take notes. So that's true. So, but let me try and see if the video. Let me see if we can do the video. I hope the internet will cooperate. Okay, I've stopped sharing. Let me play the video. So if I play, if it starts to play, I'll ask. Let me know if you have any audio.
Okay, sir.
Can you hear the audio?
No, sir. You've not played it yet.
What up now?
You can
Okay,
see that.
let me try and increase my.
You said?
I want to try and increase my sound, but I can't. I'm not hearing it.
Okay.
Wait, okay, okay. I can't hear anything. It's faint, really, really faint.
Yes.
Abi?
Yeah, it's faint.
Let me see. Let me see. I don't know. Let me. Hold on. Let me try and see. Okay. I don't know what's wrong with the audio. Sorry. A quick one before I go ahead. Second. I wanted to talk about firewalls, which is a network security device or software that monitors and controls traffic based on rules that you have predefined. And that is why it's explained in the video that I shared, which is talking about firewalls in Windows and Linux, how firewalls operate. It basically explain it. And the purpose of firewall is to maintain a barrier between a trusted network and the untrusted external network. So, like I said earlier on, everybody's going online. Most devices are connected to the internet now. And because you're connected to the internet, is the bad guys are on the internet. The bad guys that want to attack you, they are on the internet. It's the internet they use to connect to you. So the firewall is like a defense around about you to protect you from every form of attack that may be coming in. Give me a second. Okay, so the firewall is to maintain, excuse me, to maintain protection. And there are different types. There are network-based firewalls and there are host-based firewall. Basically, the difference is a network firewall is protecting a network, and a host-based firewall is protecting a host. I mean, a device in particular, which is hosting the firewall. Usually, network-based firewalls are hardware devices that you install on the network. A host-based firewall are software that you install in your device that is protecting it. And they're cloud-based. These are set up on things like on AWS, Amazon groups, and Google Cloud, and the rest. So what is the essence of having a firewall? The essence of having a firewall, like what I mentioned earlier on, the traffic in your network, what is communicating between your device and the internet, so that I can check it. There are things coming into your device. Anytime you on your device and you connect to the internet, there are messages going out and there are messages coming in. The messages going out are something that's saying, maybe if you want to visit a website, when you type www.google.com, your device will send the message to the DNS server that will resolve the IP and connect to the server of Google. And then the inbound ones are the message, the information that Google has on its website will be downloaded. So you are sending a request, and then the server is sending a reply to you. So the sending for request is the how, and the incoming is the inbound. So you set the rules on your firewall. You set inbound rules. This controls the incoming traffic. So you can decide to block some kind of traffic. So if somebody is somewhere else trying to use security, maybe you want to connect, use SSH to connect to your device, you can block it. You can decide that, okay, I want to block all HTTP traffic. I want to block all TCP traffic. You can block traffic based on protocols. The protocols I mentioned earlier on, which is the way the rules are guiding communication. You can say, okay, on my device, I don't want my device to communicate with any other device or anybody using this protocol. So anybody that is trying to use that protocol to come in will not be allowed. A very practical example, or in layman terms, let me explain it to you. If you have your organization, I'm sorry to use this statement, but where ethnic, if you have a society or the environment where they are ethnic, where they are culturally biased, there's ethnic bigotry among them, and somebody builds a house and say, okay, I don't want so person that is speaking this language to have access to this facility. So if somebody is coming and the person is trying to come in and is speaking that particular language, the person at the gate will not allow you. But immediately the person starts to speak a language that you understand, the person will be allowed. One of the reasons that if the person is speaking a language that you don't understand or using a protocol that your device doesn't understand, it means that the person can put in malicious or make malicious statements or say something or hide something malicious inside that language and come in and and proliferate or carry out something that you don't want. But if the person is speaking a plain language that you accept, you'll be able to know what the person is saying, or you'll be able to identify if there's anything malicious in it, and then you'll be able to quickly act on it. So basically, you are setting rules that controls what comes in. Then outbound rules are outgoing traffic. For example, you can restrict social media, like social media apps. I remember some times ago, I'm sure Derek will remember this experience where they went for a company. There's a company that went for retreat, somewhere outside Nigeria. And then in that country, they don't allow WhatsApp, So for you to use WhatsApp, you have to now use some other backend, maybe download VPN and some other things. That's an example of a rule. So they've set a firewall that blocks anybody that tries to use WhatsApp in that environment. For you to be able to use WhatsApp, you have to find a way to navigate behind that firewall, or to clone what you are doing to deceive the firewall and pretend like it's something else that you are doing. That is what all those people do. But basically, firewalls, you set rules. Then there are major components of firewalls. The major components of firewalls are, you have the source or the origin. This is where this is where the traffic is coming from. Most of the time, the origin is your device or the person sending message. Then you have the destination or target. This is where the traffic is going. So you can set rules based on origin or the source and based on destination and target. You can also set ports. The port is the doorway for services. So this is where services escape or go out. So HTTP, for instance, will use a port 80 on your device, where HTTPS will use port 443. So we have ports. Then we have protocols. So protocols are the rules for communication, like I mentioned earlier. So you can set rules based on ports, based on sources. You can say, okay, I can see messages coming in from so IP, and it's trying to go to this place, the SIM will log it. I can see message going through this port. The device is using this kind of operating system. All those things, those are the information, those are the logs that the SIM is gathering. So these are fundamental things that you need to be familiar with, understand cybersecurity tools. Okay, so we have protocols. There are different protocols. We are still going to look at that too. We have TCP. This is a reliable protocol with like web browsing. TCP basically is saying that whenever you send a message, TCP makes sure that the message is understood by the receiver. So as I'm communicating to you now, from time to time, I will ask you, do you hear me? If I notice that my internet is disconnected, I will wait till it comes up and repeat what I say to ensure that you hear what I'm saying, and I also ask you for feedback. So that's the way TCP works. So transmission control protocol ensures that communication is reliable. That is, the two people communicating, they understand each other. But for UDP protocol, UDP is user datagram protocol. It's faster because it doesn't care whether you understand it or not. It just tells you what to do. A good example is video streaming. If you are watching YouTube, if you are watching a live YouTube video, or you are watching video on DSTV, watching football, if the internet breaks or the rain is falling or something happens and there's a disconnection, when you put it on, it won't repeat what has happened in the past. You have to ask people what happened. The video will just continue from what is the current thing. So that's the way UDP work. Unlike TCP, in TCP, in web browsing, if you try to open a web page and it doesn't open, you keep refreshing until you make sure that the message gets you. So that's the difference between the TCP and UDP. So, and because of that, the UDP is faster, but it is less reliable. TCP is slower, but it's more reliable. Then we have the ICMP message, Internet Control Message Protocol, which means for messaging. This one is just for is the equivalent of saying you are communicating in text message instead of using MMS, instead of using media. But this is not the case here. The ICMP is used for diagnostic. So you want to just check whether something is going on. It's like sending a ping is like knocking, to see what is going on. Or shouting is like, hello, is somebody at home? If somebody is there, the person will reply. So ping is a diagnostic message. This is high CMP protocols. So I've just mentioned 3 types of protocols. There are several other protocols that you need to get familiar with, but I'm just mentioning the ones that are usually common: HTTP, UTCP, UDP, ICMP, SNMP. There are so many other products that are very important for you. Then actions. If you are configuring your firewall, there are 3 major actions: allow, deny, drop. So if you allow TCP protocols to pass through, you are saying you are permitting the traffic to go through. If you deny it, it will block and then tell the sender that this message is not allowed. But if you drop, it will just block it and it will not send a feedback to the sender. So if I'm talking to you now, if you tell me that you don't want to hear what I'm saying, that means you are blocking, you are denying. You don't want to hear me. The message is getting into it, but you don't want it and you're letting me know. But drop is, if you just put something in your ear and I keep talking, I don't know you're not hearing me. That's drop. So that's just a simple way of explaining, these actions that you can take within your firewalls. Then another thing that happens when you're configuring firewall is best practices. So this privilege is saying that allow only the necessary ports. So if you are setting up configuring your laptop or configuring a device, and the only thing you want to be doing with that device is to browse the internet, then enable only the ports that allow you to browse the internet, which is the port 80 and port 80. Every other port that you don't need, block it off. Make sure you block or you close those ports so that hackers will not have access to it. Then login. Make sure that every communication that is going on within your port is logged. So Derek that wants to learn, they want to focus on how to set up SIM. This is part of the thing. When you are logging, you are making sure that you're monitoring every traffic that is going in and out. So when you are configuring your SIM, ensure you configure the SIM to monitor. We are still going to do all those in a practical class. Then regular updates. ensure that you patch your firewalls, firmware. So if you are using a software or using a hardware firewall, make sure that it's updated regularly. Make sure it is well updated and it captures everything that you need to do. Make sure it is updated and the software are accurate. So that is the head of firewalls, and that is laying a foundation for some of the practical. So any question? This is where we take questions for this part. Do you have any questions? Derek Charles, if you can hear me.
I don't have any questions on my end. Sounds good to me.
Okay, what of Charles? Any question?
No question really, but my network has been I've been struggling with my network since. But I'll have to go back to the video again.
Video, okay, that's fine. I'm still finding a way after the video. Later on, I will still edit some of these slides before sharing. That's why I've not shared yet.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So fine. The video is there. I'm sure by the time we move into practicals, you'll be having more questions. So right now we are still laying foundation for the practical sessions, trying to make you understand the things that we're going to be dealing with when we are doing the practical. Okay, so if there is no question, I will end it, and then once the video is ready, I will share the video with you. I will also please send, in case I forget, because I want to go into something else now. Okay. Once again, thank you for joining. So yesterday, the last class on Tuesday, we went over the general concept of cybersecurity and tried to lay the foundation of what the cybersecurity class is all about, and to also put us in perspective of what we'll be expecting and how this class will be going, and also take note of our expectations also. So because of the nature of this course, more practical, we'll be taking the topics we'll be taking will be topics that are highly inclined to practical skills or hands-on skills. Even though we are going to first of all lay theoretical foundation for almost all of them, but still, even the theoretical foundation we'll be speaking to practical things. We'll be speaking to how it relates to the skills, and so that by the end of the course, like I said the other day, we will all achieve all our expectations and even more. We will have that solid experience, solid hands-on knowledge of what we are getting into. So today we also go ahead to, let me share my screen so we can see what we are getting into. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we are starting from, if you remember, I also mentioned that I want to try as much as possible to align the topics we'll be treating with Computer Security Plus certification, so that we are achieving two things at the same time. We are learning hands-on skills, we are learning the practical aspect of cybersecurity, something that will make us stand out as cybersecurity, experts, professionals, and at the same time, will also help us align with the concept of, or the curriculum of Computer Security Plus.